Yasodanandana Mridunarandana Yamunatira Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivacharya Asatara Śrīmad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Grantara Śrīmad Bhāgavatam Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Brahmanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Shivadaya Krishna Prasad Bhutara Shivaditama Krishna Vasudhi Nam Shivadaya Krishna Vasudhi Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschita Adisatari Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nasya Praeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistikir. Hare Krishna everyone. Good morning. Thank you for attending today's Śrīmad Bhāgavatam class. It's very nice. It's also a very auspicious thing to do. In the first canto, it says, Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samhitam. It identifies the Bhagavatam as the personality of Godhead Himself. So coming to here, Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is the duty of every devotee. And by attending the classes, you will make a lot of advancement. And you'll also understand the purpose in life much more clearly. Clarity is what we are looking for in the pursuance of our goal of life. So, we are looking at Canto 8, Withdrawal of the Cosmic Creations, Chapter 5, The Demigods Appeal to the Lord, Text 24. Please repeat after me. Shri Shuka Vacha, Shri Shuka Vacha, Iti Abhasya Suran Vedaha, Iti Abhasya Suran Vedaha, Sahadevairarindamam, Sahadevairarindamam, Ajitasya Padam Shakshaj, Ajitasya Padam Sakshaj, Jagama Tamasa Param, Jagama Tamasa Param. Shri Shuka Vacha, Iti Abhasya Suran Vedaha, Sahadevairarindamam, Ajitasya Padam Sakshat, Jagama Tamasa Param. Please chant. Sahadevairindama, Ajitasya Padam Sakshat, Jagama Tamasa Param. Shri Shuka Vacha, Iti Abhasya Suran Vedaha, Sahadevairarindama, Ajitasya Padam Sakshat, Jagama Tamasa Param. Ladies? Shri Shuka Vacha, Iti Abhasya Suran Veda, Sahadevairarindama, Ajitasya Padam Sakshat, Jagama Tamasa Param. Shri Shuka Vacha, Iti Abhasya Suran Veda, Sahadevairarindama, Ajitasya Padam Sakshat, Jagama Tamasa Param. Shri Shuka Vacha, Iti Abhasya Suran Veda, Sahadevairarindama, Ajitasya Padam Sakshat, Shri Shuka Vacha. Shri Sukadev Goswami said, Iti, thus, Abhasya, talking, Suran, unto the demigods, Vedaha, Lord Brahma, who is the head of this universe, and who gives everyone good sense in Vedic knowledge. Saha, with Devaihi, the demigods, Arindama, O Maharaj Parikshit, subduer of all kinds of enemies, such as the senses, ajitasya, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, padam, to the place, shakshat, directly, jagama, went, tamasaha, the world of darkness, param, transcendental too, beyond. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada the key. Since you can see the translations, I would like you all to read with me, okay? O Maharaj Parikshit. No, read with me. O Maharaj Parikshit, subduer of all enemies, after Lord Brahma finished speaking to the demigods, he took them with him to the abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is beyond this material world. The Lord's abode is on an island called Sweta Dvipa, which is situated in the ocean of milk. Purport. Maharaj Parikshit is addressed here as Arindama, the subduer of all enemies. Not only do we have enemies outside of our bodies, but within our bodies there are many enemies, such as lusty desires, anger, and greed. Maharaj Parikshit is specifically addressed as Arindama because in his political life he was able to subdue all kinds of enemies. And even though he was a young king, as soon as he heard that he was going to die within 7 days, he immediately left his kingdom. He did not follow the dictates of enemies within his body, such as lust, greed, and anger. He was not at all angry with the Muni's son who had cursed him. Rather, he accepted the curse and prepared for his death in the association of Shukadev Goswami. Death is inevitable. No one can surpass the force of death. Therefore, Maharaj Parikshit, while fully alive, wanted to hear Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. He is consequently addressed here as Arindama. Another word, Surapriya, is also significant. Although Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is equal toward everyone, he is especially inclined toward his devotees. Ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya mai te te shuchapi aham. The devotees are all demigods. There are two kinds of men within this world. One is called the Deva and the other is called the Asura. The Padma Purana states, Dvau bhuta sargalokesmin daiva asura eva cha Vishnu bhakta smrito daiva asurastad viparjayaha. Anyone who is a devotee of Lord Krishna is called a Deva. And others, even though they may be devotees of demigods, are called Asuras. Ravana, for example, was a great devotee of Lord Shiva, but he is described as an Asura. Similarly, Hiranyakashipu is described as a great devotee of Lord Brahma, yet he was also an Asura. Now Krishna is very much pleased with his devotees, even if they are not on the topmost stage of devotional service. Even on the lower stages of devotional service, one is transcendental. And if one continues with devotional life, he continues to be a Deva or Sura. If one continues in this way, Krishna will always be pleased with him and will give him all instructions so that he may very easily return home back to Godhead. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshus Anmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Nangayate Girim Yat Kripatamam Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Savodito Gododiya Pushpavanto Chitra Sandho Tamonudam. Shri Shuka Vacha Iti Abhasya Suran Vedaha Sahadeva Rarindama Ajitasya Padam Shakshat Jagama Tamasa Param. O Maharaj Parikshit, subduer of all enemies, after Lord Brahma finished speaking to the demigods, he took them with him to the abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is beyond this material world. The Lord's abode is on an island called Śrīmad, which is situated in the ocean of milk. So, once again, just to recap slightly, the demigods are in a predicament. They've lost their position in the heavenly planets because of an offense that Indra did to one of his spiritual masters. In this case, he offended Durvasa Muni. And Durvasa Muni became very unhappy, and he cursed the demigods to lose their opulence and position. And therefore, in due course of time, the Asuras who are been led by Bali Maharaj, they came and conquered the demigods, because they were, rather you can say Bali Maharaj really served his spiritual master so nicely that he was blessed to become successful. And in being successful, there was a problem, because generally demons, when they take the position of authority, they're never going to guide the common man or people in the righteous way. And therefore, the cosmic balance was not there. And so the Lord wanted to correct that, and in doing so, the demigods came to Lord Brahma and pleaded with him to solve their situation, right? And once again we learn that when we are in difficulty, we should come to people who know how to solve problems. We shouldn't think that we can address all kinds of problems. We may be able to do to some extent, but not necessarily every single problem in our life. Sometimes it's better to have a second opinion, a third opinion, or even a fourth opinion. And we can balance our life in that way. So having approached Lord Brahma, Brahma told them the best thing to do is approach Lord Narayana, Vishnu at the abode of Śrīmad. And so we find here, now Parikshit Maharaj has been informed by Sukadeva Goswami that after Lord Brahma glorified the Supreme Lord's position, these are beautiful prayers, and it's good to go back and review these prayers, and we can see how nicely the demigods, who are far more superior than all of us, how they relate to the Supreme Lord also. And after doing that, he is taking them to the abode of Śrīmad. It's as Prabhupada mentioned, it's a Vaikuntha planet within the material universe. We'll talk about that later. Right, so here, the problem here, or rather in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains there are many types of enemies for us. Particularly if you are very popular, you automatically have enemies because people will not like a popular person. Isn't that common? When someone is very good, the tendency is to want to bring them down to your same level. That is quite common actually. But as devotees, when we are practicing, we try not to look into that. Rather, devotees look at themselves and say, yes, I'm not qualified. This person is far more qualified. They have far more wonderful qualities. And we acknowledge that. In acknowledging that, we actually give up that false ego, the false notion that we are better than everyone. Consequently, the false ego is what has caused us to come to this material world, because we think we are as good as Radha Vallabha or better than him sometimes. So therefore it's important to appreciate what had happened. And Srila Prabhupada mentions how we may have enemies outside, we also have enemies inside that we may not be able to identify, right? Our attitudes, our behaviors, sometimes we may think that we are so good, right? There's a song that says, "Oh Lord, it's so hard to be humble when you're perfect in everything." So it's like that. We sometimes think we are so good, and so we behave in that way. So in the Bhagavad Gita, 16th chapter, Sri Krishna says, "Trividam narakāsyedam dvaram nashanam atmanaha kama krodhas tata lobhas tasmad etatrayam tyajet." There are 3 gates leading to this hell: lust, anger, and greed. Every sane man, this is the way Prabhupada translates, every sane man should give up this, for they lead to the degradation of the soul. So it's an important thing to understand. Why is it that Krishna wants us to give up this lust, anger, and greed? Because these qualities are so, you can say, very vicious. They have the ability of even one who is divinely situated, they have that potency to bring them down. So therefore, practicing sadhakas, devotees, we should be very, very fearful, right? We should be very careful that this thing, lust, anger, and greed, can take us away from the path of divinity. It's important. We have to recognize that. In practicing, it's not just blind following. We practice because we understand the purposes behind each practice, and then we try to follow in the footsteps of the previous acharyas, because there's a lot of benefit that we want. That will raise our consciousness, our behavior, our affection to one another, to other living entities, and so on. All these are part of this practice, and it's very important to appreciate that. So therefore we have to appreciate and know why Krishna is saying that, because these qualities are so vicious. And so even though you may be cultivating divine qualities, it can still bewilder us. For example, for a man, a woman personifies karma or lust because she is able to gratify all his sense desires. The same way, for a woman, a man represents all that she wants from him. So when karma is not satisfied, it becomes krodha. Because if I were to refuse to give you something, you get angry, you get disturbed. You're like, why? I want this. So that anger manifests when karma is unsatisfied. Anger is born, and anger is not a very good quality to have. When you are about to get angry, what should you do? Chant Hare Krishna, and then what else? Observe the anger? Absorb the anger. I didn't get that, but... Don't react, okay. What else? Don't? Okay, don't speak until... Yeah, you're sure. Generally what happens is when you're angry, your intelligence is gone. That means you cannot think straight. The intelligence is lost. And when the intelligence is not there, there's no way you are situated in the mode of goodness. Many of you gave nice answers, but those answers, you can only do it if you are situated in the mode of goodness. If you're not in the mode of goodness, it's not possible. So that means in our practices of Krishna consciousness, some of the things that we should practice is how to control our anger also. And yeah, sure, we chant nicely, right? And we pray. One of the things that I've noticed a lot of time is that we don't pray enough to the Supreme Lord. We don't pray to the Acharya and say, look, I have problems. I have big problems. And I'm not able to control my senses. So I beg of you, I'm a fallen person and I know that, and I have lots of ego, but I want you to help me so that I can control myself. It's very important that we approach the Lord in that mood, in a humble way, and say, please help me. If you do not think like that, then you're still thinking you are in control. And therefore, our ego seems to grow bigger instead of giving up the false ego. And so, it is imperative in practicing Krishna consciousness to know where we are at. Okay? Sometimes you may not know, so you can ask your friend or someone who is your well-wisher and say, how do you see my practice? Where are areas that I can improve? So this is important, and it helps all of us to progress very nicely in Krishna consciousness. And that's the whole idea in practicing Krishna conscious activities, so that we can progress very nicely by at the end of life, at least when you are in your deathbed, that you can think of nice things. My god sister, she was in a class in Wyndham, I think it was Wyndham yesterday, Chandrakoti Mataji, you all know her, she's a very nice devotee. She was saying how her husband, at one point, during surgery or what, he kind of left his body, so no heartbeat. So after he was revived, she did ask him, what did you do, and what were the thoughts in your mind? So he said, I saw my life flash by. I saw when I was young, what I was doing with my family, etc., etc. Then she said, what about devotees? He said, I never saw any devotees. So, but that's interesting, because later on he's focused on being Krishna conscious. So they asked one of the Swamis, and he said, that's good, because now he won't have to think about when the actual time for him to leave the body, he doesn't have to think about his previous experiences when he was younger. So when we practice nicely, then we will always think of Krishna. But when we are not practicing nicely or properly, we think about our senses, how to give. Maybe people can move forward. Yeah, thank you. Okay, yeah, please take a seat. Yeah. Okay. All right. So when we are not practicing properly, then we tend to identify with our senses and our mind and ego, and therefore it becomes a challenge to be Krishna conscious. Yeah. Although many times we may say, I want to be Krishna conscious, but because the practice is not done properly, the material energy covers our intelligence also, and therefore we don't take the necessary steps to rectify issues that we may have, nor do we approach others to help us in the path of devotional service. So we can identify ourselves also. You can tell yourself where you are at in your Krishna consciousness. It's not that hard. You know, each and every one of you, you know where you are at. And the point is, you should ask yourself, where will I be tomorrow, in 6 months, in a year, or at the time of death? You can reflect yourself with Parikshit Maharaj and look what he's doing. He's about to die, and what you or all of us are doing, and we are thinking we may not die yet. Yeah. So krodha or anger appears only when it is checked. Okay, when you are denied, it becomes a hindrance. So do we become peaceful when we don't get what we want? No, we don't. If we are Krishna conscious, if we don't get anything that we want, we immediately understand there's a different purpose, or that I am not qualified to get that. That's a devotee's thinking. That's a sura. An asura will think, I need it, I want it, I should have it. That's a whole. You can see how the consciousness is, the differences in the consciousness. So then, when we get to enjoy what we want, what happens? We become more greedy. That's right. Become more greedy. Yes, I deserve it. I want it. Yeah. And then the more and more you are greedy, it leads to moha, illusion, thinking, yes, I'm so wonderful, I'm so great, I can enjoy whatever I want. So that's an illusion. And then loss of discrimination, not understanding what is good, what is bad, you don't understand that. Yeah? And what happens is that you become intoxicated with pride. I'm so good that I can get whatever I want. So the pride comes in. Then all this thing, kama, krodha, lobha, mada, that comes with all these five. Yeah. So Matsarya is the last thing that comes. When all these five qualities gathered together, then Matsarya or envy takes place. So the quality of envy comes out. Okay, the mixture of these five gives rise to envy, and it manifests fully. Thus we have to understand that these demonic qualities, their root cause is lust. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. The root cause is so therefore Krishna in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he says Kamesha, Krodesha, Rajaguna, Samudbhavaha, Mahashano, Mahapapma, Vidinam, Iha, Vairinam. Yes. He's saying it is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of contact with the mode of Rajaguna, passion. Yeah. And then it later transforms to wrath or anger, you can say, and which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world. Alright, so lust actually forces us to remain in this world because you want to enjoy so many things. So it forces us to remain entangled in this material world. The original service attitude is transformed to a propensity for sense enjoyment. And they all come under the sway of lust. And this is due to the misuse of our independence. Yeah. Not knowing how to use our independence in the right way, so we will misuse them. Yeah. Lust comes from mode of passion, Rajaguna. And so we should avoid mode of passion. As far as possible, try and avoid mode of passion if you want to be free from lusty desires. Yeah. As practitioners, you should be very wary of that. What is in the mode of goodness and what is in mode of passion and ignorance, and then you can associate with that. Karanam guna sangasya sadasad yoni janmasu. According to the modes you associate, it will affect your consciousness so much so that you will be forced to take birth in the kind of mode that you are cultivating. So you may take birth in a lower species, or you may go to the upper planetary system. But an intelligent person will know this is not good for me. Yehi samsparsha jabhoga dukkha yonaya evata adyantavanta konteya nateshu ramite buddhaha. Very intelligent person will know, I'm not going to get involved in this or that because it's going to bewilder me. Yeah? And then I will be experiencing dukkha yoniya. That means, dukkha means misery. Yeah, I'll experience misery. And why? Because I'm trying to contact with material senses. So that's very important to know also. And then adyantavanta konteya. It has a beginning and an end. So why, Krishna tells Arjuna, why do you want to pursue that pleasures which have a beginning and an end? We are more interested in eternal pleasure. Okay? So it's very important to know that. And once you know and recognize that, you will not indulge in such activities. Right? You know this is wrong, so why would you indulge? Unless you're loco, crazy, right? Situation. I need help. Without help, no one can go back to Godhead. Right? You can't do it on your own. This is a team effort. Right? So that we help one another to go back to Godhead. To go back to Vaikuntha. So that's important to know. And so in the Puranas or even in the Shastras, we see how great devotees of Krishna use these qualities in the service of Krishna. The best example is Hanuman. Right? He uses the anger. How does he use it? By burning Lanka. He wanted to do it to please Lord Ram. Of course, if you go around burning things in this Melbourne, then you'll go to the prison, So don't try that. You're not. The situation is totally different, so you should be very careful. And why is it that Hanuman could do that? Okay, he wanted to serve Lord Ram, so he could use his anger properly. And so he wasn't bereft of his good intelligence. Because his attitude was always to serve Lord Ram, and therefore his intelligence was intact. And so the anger is required in this case. Kshatriyas need to be angry in the battlefield. You cannot be like, oh no, I can't fight. It doesn't work like that. You really have to be angry. So Hanuman uses the anger in the service of Lord Ram, and therefore you can say Hanuman is just like here Parikshit Maharaj is addressed by Sukadev Goswami as Arindama. So Hanuman is also Arindama. So now you understand why Arindama, it makes sense, because although they may appear to be angry, but they have all their senses, the faculties, the intelligence, their Krishna conscious completely intact. And therefore they can approach situation perfectly. And that's what we want to do also, all of us also. But our practice must make it in such a way that we all understand that this is the way to do it. How do you get to that level of intelligence? How do you do that? Okay, one is practicing, good. What else? Yes, spiritual knowledge. And where do you get the spiritual knowledge? Bhagavad Gita and Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samhitam. This Purana is non-different, Brahma Samhitam, equal to Krishna himself. So therefore when you give time to Krishna, Krishna will give time to you. Right? I don't know. It's a common behavior. If you give time to your friend, they will also reciprocate in kind. So in the same way, you should ask yourself, how much am I giving time to Krishna? You know. And so in the same way, then Krishna will say, I also want to spend time with you. Amazing, isn't it? So when you chant in wanting to have a relationship with Krishna, then he's there with you. You may not be able to see him, but the sincerity is what is going to connect you with Krishna. And your desire and all that are in line with the will of the Supreme Lord, and it's also in line with the Acharya's will, Srila Prabhupada's will. So therefore, there's another reason why each and every one of you should invest in reading the Bhagavatam seriously. When you read the Bhagavatam, two things happen. You get association of Srila Prabhupada, you also get association with Sukadeva Goswami, getting association with Parikshit Maharaj. Almost every personality you can get association. So although he is known as Arindama, we also know he also upheld religious principles. What are some ways he did that in the first canto? Parikshit Maharaj is, what were some of the things he did? The famous... No, that's not. He did something good. What was that? Okay, prior to that, he actually punished Kali. Right? Kali wanted to come into his kingdom, but he was so powerful that Kali could not encroach into his kingdom. He was very powerful. So he upheld the religious principles and he punished the personality of Kali. And then Kali, seeing that he had no choice, he took shelter. And then, but still you have to understand, this is the age of Kali, so Kali had to advent. It's no choice. So it needed to take place. Why? Because there are many fallen conditions, so living entities like all of us, right? We need to take birth in this yuga. And we can only take birth if Kali Yuga advance. Because we have a lot of desires to be fulfilled as well. And those desires can only be fulfilled in this age. Okay? But then what happened to Maharaj Parikshit, that he, here in the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions how he is cursed. And so we know also he's a very special person, because in the section where Uttara runs to Sri Krishna for protection, that says Tasman Namna Vishnu Rataha. There it is very clearly said that Parikshit Maharaj is protected by Vishnu, Vishnu Rataha. He is saved by the Supreme Lord himself. The Lord comes into the womb of Uttara and saves him. And also in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says also, right? Kunteya pratijanahi name bhakta pranasyati. O son of Kunti, declare boldly that my devotee never perishes. So then we question why then Parikshit was cursed to die in 7 days. And, right? It's unfair. It's not fair. And there's no logic. Why? Or we can say there's no justice also. No, it's not fair. So what actually happened? Who is this Muni? He seemingly offended. Huh? Samika Rishi, thank you. And then his son cursed Parikshit Maharaj. And what is the son's name? Shringi. Yeah. Shringi is the beginning of the fall down of the Brahmanas. Okay? Because Brahmanas are meant to think before they act. But Shringi was... What happened to Shringi? He became angry. Yeah. And then he cursed. Unfortunately, from an external point of view, it is a very unfortunate incident. But Srila Prabhupada says that this cursing was actually ordained by the supreme will of the Lord. And the reason behind that is so that we can hear Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Yes, Hare Krishna. Yes. I hope you can get prasadam. Yeah. 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 So the story is, once Parikshit Maharaj was out with his entourage, and he became very tired, exhausted, and very thirsty. And so when he was looking for a place to drink water, he came to the hermitage of Shamika Rishi. And at that time, the great sage was in meditation. Yeah, deep meditation. We can't meditate like that, you know. Yeah, we can close, and then every time the door opens, you want to see who's there. Right? That's the level of our meditation, and therefore we need to focus more on our chanting, at least. Yeah. So he approached the Muni, and for some reason, again, he was not able to understand that the Muni was in deep meditation. Now, Parikshit Maharaj is a very exalted soul. Don't get me wrong, he is very exalted, and he's a pure devotee of the Lord. But still, if he couldn't recognize that, then there must be some reason. And that's what Prabhupada says, that the Lord had a reason behind that, to bewilder Parikshit Maharaj. And so he's like, what? I'm a king? And Prabhupada says he should be received nicely also in the purports. Prabhupada says he's the king of the entire kingdom, and he should be well received by the Muni, but at the same time the Muni was in deep meditation, so unfortunately he couldn't. And Prabhupada says the Lord, who's very mercifully, sometimes create awkward positions for his pure devotees, so that he can drag his devotees back to Godhead. Interesting, no? So in the same way, if you look at the case of Chitraketu, he's so exalted, but he was so bewildered because he wanted a child, so the Lord allowed the Narada and Angira Muni to come and teach him a lesson, and then he became successful. But the problem was, he left the kingdom, but he became the king of the Vidyadharas. But if you live in Vidyadhara planet, you probably live for 10,000 or 100,000 years long. And so the Lord was thinking, this is not good. I want him now. The Lord has so much love for him, so he wanted him quickly. And so he organized a situation where Chitraketu will make fun of Lord Shiva, and then who takes offense? Parvati, his consort, and so she curses him. But the curse is a positive thing. From our point of view, we'll think it's not fair. But it's so positive because that's the when he becomes Vritrasura, he gets an opportunity to fight with Indra, and then he goes back to Godhead quickly. He doesn't have to live for thousands of years. Yeah. So the Lord didn't want him to spend too much time. So yeah, so those are exceptions to the rule. These are very exceptional devotees because their practice is par excellence. But there may be situation where the Lord will intervene. Sometimes in your lives also you can see the Lord intervening also. But unless you are practicing properly, you cannot see that the Lord is intervening. You will get confused and you will see this person is my enemy, that person is my enemy, they are interfering in my life like that. So outwardly, sometimes situations may appear very frustrating to the devotees. But the devotees always should accept all conditions of frustration. And that's something we have to cultivate. By practicing nicely, chanting nicely, doing service, seeing the deities, reading Prabhupada's book, going out on book distribution, all those things will allow you to become broad-minded. That means you can see things in balance, in tandem with Krishna's desires and so on. So that's very important. But otherwise, it will be very frustrating. We should always ask ourselves, why am I in this situation? What is the lesson I have to learn? If you don't, then you get clouded, your intelligence is lost and you think the world is unfair. I'm the best person and these people don't know how good I am. Everyone's giving me a problem. And even in ISKCON, you see wonderful Acharya, some of our great leaders, they die in a way that we cannot accept or we don't approve of. Right? The problem is we see what is good from our point of view and what is bad. And then the question you can ask is, does anyone die happily? Right? So people say, oh, that was a bad thing, they shouldn't have died in the accident or this or that. But hey, come on, have you seen a person in a hospital die happily? Yeah? Or have you had an occasion where someone who has died came back to you and say, I died happily? Yeah? No, right? You don't see that. That is inevitable. We're all going to face, just like in this Bhagavatam, Sukadeva Goswami is dying, he's being cursed. So Prabhupada also quotes, as sure as death. Yeah. So for one who has taken birth, death is assured. You cannot run away from it. So Prabhupada says, although death is inevitable, foolish men forget this point and neglect the duty of preparing themselves for going back to Godhead. So there's from the Mahabharata, this is a famous verse, ahani ahani bhutani gachanti yamalayam. Shesha stavaram ichanti kim ascharyam ataha param. Hundreds, and this is a discussion between Yudhishthira Maharaj and the Yaksha. And so he asked Yudhishthira, what is the most amazing thing? So then Yudhishthira Maharaj says, hundreds and thousands of living entities meet death at every moment, but a foolish living being nonetheless thinks he himself is deathless and therefore does not prepare for death. Oh, Bhagavatam is based on someone dying. So morbid, no? You think about it. But no, it's the real test comes at the time of death. So this place is known as Mrityu Loka, a planet of death. So you can say, where do you live? I live in the planet of death. Yay! Right? Yeah. When death comes, no longer will our, Prabhupada says, no longer will our puffed up philosophy or advanced degrees you have will help you. Okay? You're dying. Hey, I have this PhD. I have this. Sorry. Death will come and say sorry. So we come under the dictations of this material world. And the material world is known as a place which is very ruthless. What is ruthless? No mercy, no compassion. But the word Ruth is a biblical name. Ruth. Ruth means one who is very compassionate. It's the name of one of the ladies in the Bible, Ruth. Very compassionate, very merciful, but ruthless. Material Durga Devi is ruthless. Meaning her job is to make sure that we are qualified to go back to Godhead. So therefore she'll chop us down, chop our egos down like that. But the Bhagavatam is so well written, so well discussed. Srila Prabhupada is so merciful. It's a very beautiful book. You all should invest more time in reading them, all the cantos. You'll find there's so many things that you can learn, and you can also learn how to perfect your life. Okay, that's the whole goal. And before long, when your time comes to die, you will know what to do. The question that when Shukadev Goswami walks in, Parikshit Maharaj asked him, what is the perfection, especially for one who's about to die? What a man should hear, chant or remember and worship, and also what he should not do. So it is in this Bhagavatam. So tasmad ekana manasa Bhagavan Sattvatam Pati Shrotavya Kititavyascha Deye Pujascha Nityata. So Sutta Goswami explains that we should have tasmad ekana manasa, means one-pointedness in chanting, in reading, in paying attention to Krishna Katha, in glorifying, and try to remember Krishna's pastimes and so on. And Śrīmad Bhāgavatam helps us to adjust our expectations in our life, material life, as well as what we can do. We know ourselves. It helps us to accept our situation, whether it's precarious, whether it's a wonderful situation, but it allows us to balance, and it allows us to aspire for the ultimate connection with Krishna. So therefore our quality of life is dependent upon the grace and strength with which we can face the inevitable challenge that the world throws at us. Like family problems, financial problems, relationship, all this. So by looking at the life of Parikshit Maharaj, who is Arindama, we also can come to the same position of Parikshit Maharaj. Srila Prabhupada, at the last days of his life, showed us exactly what we should also be aspiring for. Not about material things, but trying to continuously connect with the Supreme Lord. So I'll stop here. It's all getting late. Any comments, questions, corrections, reflections, please feel free to do. Yes, Hare Krishna. Good to see you.
Hare Krishna, Radha Krishna Maharaj. You said good chanting. So if you can tell us a bit more about good chanting. And second thing is, today is disappearance day of Sanatana Goswami.
Yes.
So you want to tell something about it. Thank you very much.
Well, I don't think I can talk. I'll talk in the evening about Sanatana Goswami. Yeah, I could do that. In terms of chanting, good chanting means your mind is not wandering. Yeah. So one of the practice is to keep yourself in the moment. When you say Hare, you should know I did chant Hare like that. Not you say Hare and then you're on the last beat. You know. You know. That means in between the first Hare and the last beat, where were you? So you have to be present in the moment. There's so many different things. Chanting, to be focused, you have to pick the time, the place that you want to chant also. We find that if you can get up in the morning, it is very, very conducive for focusing the mind. That's one thing. So chant at that time. So just like I'm talking and someone stands up, your focus goes away. So in chanting we have to practice that. Focus is very important, otherwise the mind is always disturbing us. There's many things, I don't want to go into too much, but for now I hope that satisfies you. Yeah. I'm asking others if they have other questions. Yes, Prabhu. Oh yes.
Is a spiritual place situated in material realm. So can you please?
Yes, I actually mentioned it the other day, which is why I didn't touch on it. Just like in any country, you have embassies of a foreign nation. So there's embassies, although they are in, let's say in Australia, there's an embassy of China, Chinese embassy in Melbourne or whatever. But what it means is, although it is in Australia, within the embassy it is considered to be the Republic of China. Yeah. So in the same way, in this material world, although everything is material, the Lord, because this is Achinta Beda Beda Tattva, or His potency is inconceivable, He can manifest His abode within this material universe. And it is Vaikuntha, but it is not touched by this material energy. It is called Svetadvip because it is an island in the ocean of milk. Yeah, but it is in this material universe itself. So it's like an embassy. And you can ask, why would the Lord want to do that? Because He wants to help us. Yes.
About the thing you said about curse, so I'm really interested into this. Like Shringi Muni, he cursed Maharaj Parikshit.
You want to curse?
Yeah, anything. It's up to you. So like Shringi Muni cursed Maharaj Parikshit and Brahmana, it was a fall down of Brahmanas.
Yes.
But again when we see Bhagavatam, we see Narad
Part
Muni
of them
cursing, Parvati Devi cursing, and other Agastya Rishi and other rishis cursing.
Yeah.
So what about that then?
You have to see, like Narad Muni is a pure devotee. So generally when a pure devotee curses, they are cursing for the benefit of the individual. Having weighed in the different circumstances in the case of Manigriva and Nalakuvera, Narad Muni understood. And he didn't just curse him, he said, when Krishna comes in the Dwapara Yuga, you will get liberated. I mean, what curse is that? Don't you want to have such curses? So devotees generally, when they curse, it's usually for the benefit of that person. Whereas in the other cases, circumstances are difficult, and so the person loses their anger and they curse. So in the case of Durvasa Muni, he curses Ambarish Maharaj, and then what happens? He suffers because he's cursing a pure devotee, and Sudarshan Chakra comes. And so you can understand that although there's cursing going on in the Bhagavatam, in fact if you read the Puranas, there's so many cursing, and you think that everyone is cursing everyone, right? But the Puranas are written to highlight certain incidences only. Fortunately for us, in Kali Yuga, you can't curse very much. Yes, Prabhu. Jnana Samudra Prabhu. Thank you.
I'm just meditating on what the time of death. Srila Prabhupada's gift to us is that he's actually relieved us of that ignorance. You know, like we see karmis and they die, and there's a fear on their faces, a horrific fear, surrounded by relatives, and they don't want to leave their body. They've been tortured by their relatives to stay. It's a very distressful situation. But Srila Prabhupada's gift is that he's given us the knowledge to actually face that fear. And for devotees, it's actually a very happy time. It's said that death is like a lightning flash, but we see like Kadambakanapa, for example, when his last action was he was on his deathbed and he was offering with a flower to the Lord, and we hear devotees saying, "Can you see them? Can you see them?" And the room is full of devotees. Or Srila Prabhupada has come. He's come to take me.
Yeah.
The Vishnu Dutas are there in the room.
That's right. Yeah.
So for a devotee, because of this gift that Srila Prabhupada has given us, death is actually a very wonderful thing. It's actually quite a happy situation. It's something that we look forward to. Because we die in knowledge.
Yes.
Knowing that the body is a temporary thing, and that it's not that important to hold on to.
That's true. So if you're prepared for an examination, you look forward to the exam. But if you're not prepared, then you'll be fearful. Yeah. Yeah, your point is very true about the karmis. I have a devotee friend who's a doctor, and so she was saying how people who are about to die, and they die, they generally pass stool, urine, and they die in a very unhappy way, screaming and stuff like that, But devotees, no, they're like, hey, let's party, That's good, Yes, can you give her the microphone?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for the nice class. You had mentioned that we should long for spiritual happiness because it has no beginning and no end. But whereas we see material happiness is always fluctuating. Like sometimes we're happy and sometimes we're not. But we see sometimes when we're performing devotional service, the spiritual happiness starts fluctuating. I mean, sometimes we're so enthusiastic, but sometimes we're just not so enthusiastic. So how do we understand?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, that means our practice is not steady yet. Yeah, when we are not steadily focused on things, the material energy can disturb us, and so we are bewildered. But when we are focused, we see Krishna to be in the center of our life, and we are very happy. Yeah. So then again, it's a practice that it requires. You should ask yourself, in what situations I'm happy in the practice, in what situations I'm not happy. And then identify those situations you can avoid, and then keep yourself always in those company or situation where it enhances your devotion. Yeah?
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, yeah.
I guess we have free will, so how do we allow Krishna to protect us in situations when we misuse free will? Or how do we, I guess, utilize free will in a way that Krishna is protecting us, if that kind of makes sense? Because free will is, it's given to us, but sometimes we don't know when we misuse it.
Free will. Free will for us means two things only. Free will to serve Krishna or not serve Krishna. That's what it is. So if you don't serve Krishna, as I mentioned, you are forced by the energies of Krishna, you're forced by your karma, and you're forced by the material energy. And how do you come to the point where you are always surrendering to the will of the Lord? In the Bhagavad Gita, he says, Man mana bhava, mad bhakti, mad yajimam, namaskuru. So these are the 4 things you need to do daily. Think of Krishna, right? Become his devotee. Come and worship him, and then you pay obeisance to him. It starts there, which means I am, my Lord, I've come to this point where I want to surrender to you. It's a sincere effort to connect with the Lord. You have to have that relationship with the Lord. Say, I want to surrender. It's not just quote some verses and then, oh, Om Tat Sat, let's go home. You know, it doesn't work like that. You have to continuously reassess your situation and ask yourself why you made these choices last week. Why didn't you make better choices? So in asking yourself and in prayers and in approaching devotees, you will get so many ways of improving yourself. It's a beautiful process. It's just that the problem is us. We don't want to improve sometimes. Yeah. Then you find that the free will is you don't even worry about free will because you want to be servant of Krishna. Jivera Swarupoi, Krishnera Nityada. You understand, I am a servant, so therefore you immerse in that consciousness of servitude. Yeah. And then whatever comes, you accept that because you are a servant. And a master sometimes will chastise the servant, or sometimes he'll give them bonus. So we accept that. So that's the level of consciousness we aspire to, and you have to work at it. Yeah. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Yeah, microphone, yeah.
My question is, when you are in the elevated position, you are conscious, you have gone past your normal materialistic desire and all, now you are in the conscious level. At that point of time, are your intellect is more, your intellect is more dominant? Who is more dominant? That's a very confused question I always think of, and I never got an answer on that. I don't know if you can help me with that.
Maybe you shouldn't think of like that.
Sure. Okay.
It's not a question of which is dominant, rather it's an understanding of my relationship with Krishna. In doing so, the intelligence that manifests is the mercy of the Lord. So whatever you're doing based on the will of the Lord. Okay, it's not what you are thinking, this is right or wrong. No. The Bhagavatam is the will of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada's purports are the will of Krishna. So when you practice it, you're actually following the will of the Lord. So in doing that, your intelligence, so-called intelligence, material intelligence, gets purified, and eventually it is in line with the will of the Lord. Yeah. So that's how it should be. Yeah. All right, we should end here. Everyone is starving. Grantara Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai, Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai, Thai Gaura Premanand.